Success in farming is all about precision and efficiency, ensuring every seed, every drop of water, every nutrient and treatment counts. Terraplex Ag is helping farmers all over Iowa and the Midwest do just that. With precision ag-grown technology and support from Terraplex, you'll boost your productivity and make timely and informed decisions, all while reducing your costs and increasing your profit. It's time to revolutionize your farming. Harvest the benefits with Terraplex Ag. Visit TerraplexAg.com.
My name is Joseph Hurst. I live in Ankeny, Iowa, and I'm a part of the PMBA program. I currently work as the Director of Sales at Stony Creek Hotels in Johnston, Iowa, and I chose the Iowa State MBA program because it just made perfect sense. About 2 years ago, I started this wonderful program, and I couldn't imagine not having done it. What has helped the most balance work, life, school, has been the people I'm in class with. It's great to go through questions, problems, study for tests, and it just makes the whole class so much easier. As a working professional thinking about doing an MBA program, I get night classes aren't everybody's dream. I get after a long day of work, you may not want to go do more, but it's worth it. You're going to learn a lot, not just from the professors in the program, but from the other students. They come from all walks of life. They are from different age groups. They're from different companies. They're from all kinds of different backgrounds. They've got all kinds of different stories. And after 2 years, I've made some of the best friends I've ever made, learned the most I've ever learned, and I can't imagine what we're going to do after we're done.
What's going on? Welcome to Williams and Blum Wednesday here on the Cyclone Fanatic Podcast Network. My name is Chris Williams, joined as always by Brent Blum. It is Cyhawk Week. Wednesday of Cyhawk Week feels like 2 weeks worth of just stuff. Welcome to the program. We are presented as always by our friends at Mechdyne. We are in the Wild Rose Casino Studios, and I'm heading down to Oskaloosa. After we do this, I'll be doing Two Guys tomorrow from Kelderman Manufacturing, one of our great sponsors here on Cyclone Fanatic. Thank them for that, Kelderman.com. Cyhawk Week, Blum, are you over it yet?
It's weird. I honestly think, Chris, and I this is in my logical brain here, that a big reason why there was kind of some uneasiness Saturdays because of this game this week.
Oh, I said that to somebody this week. I go, I think that the Iowa game being number 2 messes with the fan base.
100%. I just think everybody's on edge, and it just seems like everyone's just a little bit feisty this week. And I get it. I mean, they call it hate week for a reason. It was good for me to go to Perry on Monday for a little bit just to see what most of the real world is, and that's just Iowa State and Iowa fans largely just cohabitating and getting along great, like nothing. They don't even know what's on social media. But when you're in it and you're on there, it just seems like each year I get a little bit older. I'm like, I'm too old for this anymore.
The mute button is your friend.
Yes, it is. I've been working the mute button this week, but all good. I mean, it's gonna be. This is why you play college football in a lot of ways, is for rivalry games like this. It's just, I think it really impacts people personally, this game, and for good or bad.
No doubt about that. And I get it. Like, I'm glad it's like this. I'd rather it be like this than nobody cares.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So I'm glad. No, it's like I always argue with Iowa fans, these delusional Iowa fans who say that they care more about like other games than this. I'm like, no, you don't.
They can say that, and really, it's just it's a coping mechanism all the way around. I mean, and like the whole thing of, oh, that's your Super Bowl. It's like, well, you get 12 of them. Like, I always love the argument of, oh, you guys care more than we do, but we're going to argue about who cares less or more. Or it's like, wait
it's
a
so
second
dumb.
here. It's just everybody. This is a big game. I mean, it's a big game for both. Iowa and Iowa.
The way it's set up now.
100%.
Iowa needs a good non-conference win to be an at-large potentially.
That's the thing. If Iowa loses this game, their at-large chances go away almost completely. Like, it's going to be a really hard argument for them. And then for Iowa State, if you're going to get an at-large, you need to win this game. We've argued all along, is the Big 12 even going to get an at-large? So I could argue this game is actually more important from the playoff standpoint for Iowa than Iowa State. Iowa State's best path to make the playoff is to win the Big 12. It might be its only path, honestly. And so that's why this game, you still want to win the game, though, like for all the reasons above. Plus, Matt just hasn't had a lot of success against Iowa, and he hears it. He knows it. He can say what he wants in the press conference about, the conference games. You're still trying to prepare for that. And it's true. Like, the conference is more important than this game from making a playoff standpoint, but it doesn't diminish the importance of this game for so many reasons, including keeping your fan base happy.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, really, is that the only strike against Matt in his tenure?
It's got to be about it, right?
I mean, honestly, let's think through that. We don't talk about that very often. I think the only thing that you could really get the guy for is he hasn't beat Iowa enough.
And then I guess slow starts in the non-conference.
Yeah, but
if you throw in,
as a fan, I would rather have my team peak in November or October, November. Like if I was going to get the choice, I've said it for years. Like, and I don't know if I think that philosophy-wise, that there's a lot of differences between Kirk Ferentz and Matt Campbell. But philosophy-wise, like how they approach the game in the sense of complementary football, the developmental stuff, all that. I think they're very similar, and I think that you see these teams both play better football October, November. And I would rather that be the case at Iowa State than waxing these teams 70-0 and then falling apart in October.
Well, and then I would just, for Iowa State fans, I enjoyed last season quite a bit. Iowa State lost to Iowa. I did not enjoy the 2014 season when Iowa State beat Iowa and went 2-10. Like this game doesn't determine everything, but it does make you feel better for that week that you have the bragging rights, and then honestly year round. It's fun to have scoreboard. It's always fun to have scoreboard.
Oh yeah, no.
Guys. And as an Iowa State fan, we haven't had it enough in the last 10 years. And that's where it becomes personal. Like this is more personal than logical. But the logic is now upping with the playoff ramifications too.
Yeah, and you're right. And I know that's what we should be aspiring to. Like I just refuse to let this playoff loom over me.
I know.
Too much.
I know. That's the other, you got to just reset yourself a little bit there too.
I have this new tripod. If you guys are watching this on YouTube.
You're just kind of.
No, Van Winkle got me this new tripod and it keeps it's like melting during the show, if that makes sense.
So for those listening and not watching,
there's more
Williams.
Doing that.
It's just hilarious because Williams got like a portrait of Mike Leach behind him, just staring at us behind there too.
And he's got a pirate eye.
He's got a pirate eye.
Yeah. Just wait. At some point, I'm gonna get this office done. I was supposed to have it done months ago, and I haven't had time. We've had a lot going on in the ecosystem. If you haven't been able to tell,
you guys. Well, actually, I need to get one of those cameras too. You look a lot sharper than me with that.
Yeah, they're nice cameras. Got me a new Sony. But anyways, yeah,
it's a big game.
Leach is gonna be staring at you guys in the background for the foreseeable future.
I love it. It's a big game, Chris. Like this is. And it's almost uncomfortably big for a lot of because this is the game that honestly 70% of the fan base,
the majority, that's why I think I said that it was not a football coach, but this was a high level. I'll give you a hint as I fix my camera here for those who are watching. I'm not going to tell you who I was talking to. It was a person who has coached at Iowa State before.
Okay,
who is no longer at Iowa State, but still keeps in touch with it. And this is a high-level coach, okay? And he called me, and he couldn't believe the reaction of the fan base. True. I mean, this is just how it went. And he was like, "Don't."
From Saturday or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because he was just, but you got to realize this guy is like probably just perusing social media and nothing more. Like that, you know, he couldn't believe how, like, what he saw, he thought was completely over the top. And he's like, and we're discussing, like, why that was, and I gave him my take, and then it really did hit me. I go, I think that they just are so stressed out knowing what's coming next week that, and maybe we're wrong. I'm sure we'll catch some hell for this conversation.
Yeah, probably.
And that's fine. Like we could be wrong, but this guy completely agreed with me.
It's one of those weeks that you love it, but you also hate it because you love it, and I can't wait though. I mean, honestly, like You play college athletics because it means something, and you represent your school, and this is why you're involved. Like you're not a fan to watch North Dakota, Iowa State. You're a fan for games like this, and so let's not lie to ourselves. It's a big game, and let's see what happens. And
I also think that we've both sides of the fan base, the Iowa and the Iowa State. For what it's worth, if you guys want good content on Iowa that won't make you sick, I did a CW pod with Scott Docterman yesterday, and we kind of broke down. And what I liked about it, it was like a Iowa beat writer guy giving his honest assessment of Iowa State. It was really good. And Docterman's not a flamethrower or anything, if you know that. But I thought it was very insightful.
Mm-hmm. I look forward to, I haven't heard that yet, but I've always enjoyed Scott's perspective because he's not like some on the media
I think
side.
that both sides, at least the vocal ones, vastly overreacted to week one. Like, I mean, the Iowa offense being the Kurt Warner Rams is a little ridiculous. Let's be honest here. Right. And I mean, some of the reaction that what has surprised me on the Iowa State side, it's not much, but like any critique of the offense, I think is completely blasphemy. If you know anything about football and just watching the game, like they were fine. I do completely buy into, and we're going to talk about the injuries. Like, this is where I've really considered changing my pick and picking Iowa to win the game. Just in it, like, first of all, the way that this is going, and this is strictly from a gambling perspective, but I say follow the money is if you want great insight, is so this line was at 2.5. Anytime it has touched 3, heavy money has come in on Iowa State. So this is a pros versus Joes game.
Yep.
The Joes are all on Iowa.
The Joes being the general public, not plugged in people.
Strictly, as far as this goes, Iowa State has them right where they want them. Because all of the professional money is on Iowa State in this football game. Take it for what it's worth.
Yep, and I've noticed the exact same thing. So that's generally in those cases. I don't have a percentage on it, but it always seems like
last night
the pros know what they're doing more than the general public.
As of last night, it was like an 88% of the professional money is on Iowa State.
It's crazy to me after week 1 and the fact that this game is in Kinnick that it's still that way. Which actually and it's not. Here's the thing: Vegas knows a lot. Vegas doesn't play the game. Like, there are still X's and O things that everyone has to execute. But what I think it tells me is that the pros are higher on Iowa State than sometimes I think our fan base is after week 1.
Correct. Yeah.
And that's kind of the moral of the story.
Because the pros look at
the big
they don't
picture.
Overreact. They have their power ratings. They adjust it. I mean, if I had power ratings, and I will in a couple weeks, I just usually wait a little bit before I do mine. I would have bumped Iowa up a little bit just because of the offensive thing, right? Like, I mean, they have the best unit on the field. The Iowa defense is the best unit on the field. And, like, their offense, like, to me, went from, like, a -10. I would have put it up to, like, a -7 or 6 probably. Honestly, like, they showed enough where it was like, okay, they're clearly more competent than they were a year ago.
Yeah, I thought scheme-wise,
like,
it looked better.
I'm not saying they're going to be great, but they're like their special teams. I'm still like, I'm going to wait and see, like, if they can replicate what they've been doing. I don't think they can because they've been so elite. Iowa State's offense, I wouldn't move. Iowa State's special teams, I wouldn't move. Iowa State's defense, I would take some points away, and it's only because of that linebacker situation. I think the defensive line will be fine.
Agreed.
I love Iowa State's secondary. There's only so much you can do when you have to play third-string guys in the second level. And I think Haycock and those guys will have a great plan. I mean, I have so much faith in them. Is it bringing Bro Freeler up? Is it, 4-2-5 a little bit? Is what do you? I don't know. I don't know, and they're not going to tell me. I can promise you. They'll have a plan, but even my tag team partner, my favorite player on the team, Cale Brazina, we think he'll be back, which is great to get some depth.
Yeah.
But he's never played before. And Cooper Evil, I think, I went back and watched that game. I mean, his tackling sucked, frankly, on Saturday, but that mother can run. Like,
he's fast. Yeah.
I like him. He looks like a freshman AJ Klein in my mind. Like, I love that kid. So
just got to rein it in a little bit.
Yeah, all these guys are going to be really good, but there's John Haycock can't put experience under them, and he can't bring Caleb Bacon and Will McLaughlin and all those guys back. So you have to dock Iowa State a little bit. And what scares me about this game is just if this is as ugly as we think it could be, like nobody wins ugly better than Iowa. And Iowa State has proven over 8 years by trying to play that way against Iowa, it usually doesn't work out that well. So I don't know. Part of me kind of has gotten to the point, Brent, where I think if Iowa State's going to win, it's throwing 50, 60 times, which I think would be the smart thing to do. I don't think Iowa State will be able to run very well. And really just be patient, or you could pressure the hell out of that Iowa defense too and just see what happens, and maybe you get blown out, but you're going to give them your best shot. Like, I don't know. Like, but I do think Ferentz, and I don't know enough about this Lester, but they're going to watch that film, and they are going to try and Mark Weissman the hell out of Iowa State in this game. Well,
it's going to be up to Iowa State. The first adjustment will be, can Iowa State stop the run? That's question number one. You're right. That if Iowa State can't stop the run with whatever the configuration is, it's going to be a long day. So mission number one, stop the run. And then secondly, Chris, I think the next question for me is, can Iowa State move the ball regularly against Iowa? And so on that end, I did some research yesterday that I would like to share with the audience. So, in the old days, I would write a column about this, but we're just going to do it on the podcast. This is a whole podcast column.
All right.
You ready to
Let's go? I love these.
All right. So last year, Iowa has a great defensive reputation. We all agree on that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, the question I would pose is Iowa's defensive reputation more because of how good they are, or is it because of the opponents it has played in the last 4 to 5 years in the Big Ten West? That's the question I'm positing.
And that's fair. They play very weak schedules.
Well, just offensively. I'm just saying the offensive personnel they play against are not the best.
And they haven't. Correct. Yeah, and they don't challenge you the way Iowa State can.
Right. But also I'm going to get to something else that piqued my interest here on that would actually favor Iowa here. Just follow me here. So last year, Iowa had a very, very good defense. Iowa State had the average 3.9 yards per play in the game last year with a freshman Rocco Becht and an offense that didn't really know what it was doing at that point. 3.9 yards per play was the seventh most against the Iowa defense. In fact, Iowa State averaged more yards per play than both Minnesota and Michigan, teams that beat Iowa last year. So Michigan, in that game that they shut out Iowa 26-0 in the Big Ten championship, only averaged 3.3 yards per play. Iowa State had 4 yards per play in its game. So again, you don't have to be X amount better depending on where we go. All right, 2022.
Just don't make the big mistake, right?
Still make the big, exactly.
Yeah, that's where we're going here.
Yep. 2022. So this is the game Iowa State won in Iowa City. Again, Iowa State averaged right at 4 yards per play. That would have been right in the middle, sixth most against Iowa that year. And interestingly, it was the fewest yards per play of anybody that beat Iowa. Everybody else below that, Iowa beat. So again, 4 is kind of the magic number here. Let's go to 2021. This was the game in Ames where Brock Purdy kind of lost his mind for a little bit. Again, Iowa State right in the middle of the pack, 6th most yards per play against Iowa that season. Everything pretty standard. Iowa State was at 4.8 yards per play in that loss. And that's kind of the barometer. So let's go to 2019. This is the game where Iowa State's punt return guys ran into each other.
Yep.
Again, a mistake that dictated. Iowa State had the most yards per play that year against Iowa at 7.7. Moved the ball great. Still lost the game. Why? Because it turned the ball over a bunch. And so when you look at Iowa, the other thing that struck me is in the last 5 years of Iowa's defense, they have allowed more than 300 yards passing just 4 times in 5 years. It is really hard to move the ball in the air against Iowa because they don't let you throw it deep. And then they suck the life out of the ball when they have it. Like, they want that ball control game. And so they almost get you into this weird, stressful situation where you're in the mud and they're comfortable in the mud. They just don't, other than, 2019, they gave up a bunch of passing yardage. Otherwise, the last 3 years, it's like 2 times total anybody's thrown over 300 yards against those guys. And that's where my concern as an Iowa State fan is I would put that number for Iowa State. Like, you need Rocco, 225, 250. If he can approach 300, I really like Iowa State's chances because I think it's going to be hard for Iowa State to generally just run the ball against those guys.
You have to pass to set up the run.
I do too, but that's where they burn you. And the other thing
Just take what you can get, though. Like, they give you 7 yards all the time.
Absolutely. And that's where teams that had success, like Michigan, even though Michigan averaged 3.3 yards per play against those guys, they won 26-0. Like, they had J.J. McCarthy. They had all this talent. They did not try and get greedy. Because where Iowa penalizes you is if you try and get greedy and make a play that you can't, and then they get a turnover and make you pay. Interestingly, that end, Iowa actually had fewer caused turnovers than Iowa State. Iowa had 15 turnovers as a defense last year. Iowa State had 19. So as much as credit as Iowa gets for forcing turnovers, last year they actually didn't do it that much. But when you do, like the Rocco Beck pick 6, it's a game ender. And so
that was the game.
And that was the game. And so that's where it's interesting for Mauser. Like, I'm super fascinated. How much does he want to open it up? Knowing that it could cost you the game if you're too aggressive, because that's what Iowa feasts on, and their secondary just eats you alive because you know what you're going to get, but they're so mechanically sound that they will disrupt everything. And then once they get you in a second and long, third and long, it's really hard against those guys. So I'm just fascinated. I mean, obviously, number one, you got to stop the run. If I was able to run the ball, it's going to be a long day at Kinnick. If you can do that, I think I think the game's a 50-50 game. And then on the second end, how aggressive does Iowa State want to be against that Iowa defense? And Rocco has been awesome, just completely awesome about taking care of the ball. Last 6 games for Iowa State as Rocco is the quarterback, only 2 turnovers. That's what you need. You just gotta make the right play. And even Matt and Rocco were joking about it yesterday in the press conference. That throw he made against North Dakota, can't do that.
No. Yeah.
But it's the question. It's the paradox of you want to get your best players involved, which are Higgins, Bramer, and Knoll, but also not give Iowa its best offense, which is probably a turnover, by making a mistake down the field.
I would argue, watching Iowa enough, that the best big play potential you even have is Knoll with his legs in the short passing game of good downfield blocking.
Yep.
Honestly, like, I think you have a better shot at that, making a big, what is an explosive play, 20 yards or more. I think you're better off doing that than you are trying to chuck it downfield a lot against these guys.
Yeah, I think Higgins in
Except
particular.
Bramer. I think there'll be a hole in that Iowa. Bramer's the one kind of, I think, special sauce against Iowa, potentially. Doctorman kind of agreed with me on that too. Like, if you're going to find a hole in that defense, he may be the guy.
And you have to take calculated risks, but it has to be calculated. Like, if you get Higgins one-on-one, give it a shot. If that safety's coming over, though, it's going to be hard. So it's this is where I'm glad Rocco's had the time. Like, this, if this was last year, it would have been really hard for Rocco, and it was. It was hard in this game, and he learned the hard way, and he bounced back from it. But I'm glad Rocco has this experience. He's got that good relationship. And those teams that have given Iowa trouble, it's not necessarily with the ground game. It's the ability to kind of pick them apart with a very high IQ quarterback. And I would say that fits Rocco Beck very well.
I've mentioned this a couple times. I trust him in this game more than Brock, even in a weird way, just because Brock, he was the kid at the table whose eyes were bigger than his stomach sometimes. At that point in his career, where he'd just try and take more. And I don't know. I feel like Rocco, that is the one, like, real, doesn't have the biggest arm, doesn't have the greatest body. I feel like his strength is between the ears.
If I'm looking at this game, the biggest advantage Iowa State has is at the quarterback position, and it's not close. Nothing against Cade McNamara. He hasn't really proven it against a quality team while at Iowa.
No, he hasn't.
And he can't. The other thing
we're all overreacting to week 1.
100%. And the other thing that Iowa State is going to try and do and feast on is that guy is not very mobile. The guy at North Dakota was pretty mobile, like we talked about. He was just a little guy going to run around and make some plays. They converted a bunch of those third downs, North Dakota, on that quarterback just kind of getting 4 yards. Cade's not going to try to do that. He is not going to try and run. And so if he has to sit back there and try and pick apart Iowa State's strength, which is a secondary, advantage Iowa State. And so this is where I think we've overreacted to week 1 based on the personnel of who each team played. And McNamara was really good second half, and he was great. He was great.
You think Iowa State brings a lot of pressure?
I do. I mean, I
Yeah, I
think
do
you
too.
have to. Like, this is not a game where you can let him get super comfortable. But C-Dub, on that same light, if you send a bunch of pressure and they break it with a with a long run, on a draw or something, that could be their best offense too. So it's that dichotomy of you sit back, keep everything in front of you. You're probably contain the run game okay, and maybe make McNamara pick you apart, which I haven't really seen him do well at Iowa. I've not seen him just sit back there and zing it all around, except for that second half. Or you come after him and force him into a mistake. This is where the discussions in the Stark Performance Center have to be very interesting of the philosophy Iowa State
God,
employs
I'd love
here.
to be a fly on the wall.
Yeah.
I don't report anything, guys. I just want to sit there and hear the game plan.
Yeah.
We're
not
to
gonna
watch it unfold and watch
what are we
him
thinking
pivot.
here?
Yeah.
Because and then who's going to adjust? And that's where Haycock's been great and why I feel better about the injury situation with a week to prepare than you do in the middle of the game. I mean, they're going to
No
have
doubt
a plan.
about that.
They're
yeah.
going to have a plan. Will the plan
Thank-
work? I don't know.
Thank a couple of our great sponsors here on Williams and Bloom Wednesday. Gravitate Co-working. Go to gravitatecoworking.com for all of your co-working needs. And you can rent, like a lot of people come and have a couple days in Des Moines or anything like that, and they don't need it all the time. You can rent conference rooms, do all that good stuff. Also want to thank our friend Hope Wood. You can get your will done in a day. And Hope is now making a donation to the We Will Collective with referrals from Cyclone Fanatic. And it will be $50 to the We Will Collective. Again, that is We Will. I believe, all you got to do is mention Cyclone Fanatic. That's all you have to do. Sorry, I was looking if there was like a promo code or not. No, if you go to hopewoodjd.com, you need to get that will done. Hope's going to give a $50 donation to the We Will Collective.
Hey, ran into Hope, came by the tailgate on Saturday.
Nice.
Guess who's got a meeting scheduled with Hope Wood, JD.com.
Who, you?
Blooms.
Nice. I need to do this.
We're finally doing it. I might not make it through Saturday, honestly, but we're gonna.
Well, that's why you got to get it done. My friends at Game Day Men's Health, with locations in Ankeny, West Des Moines, and Eastern Iowa clones over in North Liberty. You can get your testosterone checked, and this is a deal where I'm not even gonna lie, I wasn't even a believer in it at first, and I was like, yeah, my man Bill Morris, so I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna get in there, and I've lost 25 pounds since I started going to Game Day Men's Health. Not even bullshitting you. I can draw a line right to it when I started. Game Day Men's Health with locations in Ankeny, West Des Moines, and North Liberty. The professionals there, fantastic people, good locally run company, locally owned, locally run. But my guy Bill Morris and his team, shout out to all the wonderful people there who have taken such great care of me. Let's move and talk a little bit more. Well, we're going to get into the Big 12 here primarily, but just the future of the Cyhawk game. We were kind of debating if we even wanted to get into this last night. Do you think we're playing this game in 10 years, Brent?
10 years is the perfect timeline. I do.
Yeah, I know.
2032 will tell us a lot, or whatever that 20. What's that next? Is it 3132? Is that next TV iteration? I do think we're comfortably going to play this for the next 8 years, though. I really do. I think the talking point with the fan base is, as this thing becomes more sophisticated, I just don't see, with the state of Iowa government and then some of the corporate sponsors that play, which doesn't really get brought up here, but Iowa Corn pays a pretty penny to sponsor the Iowa Corn Cyhawk series. I think you'd have a hard time dropping this game from a political standpoint from the government side more than anything. So now if it gets to a point where you're in a separate division or something, or maybe there's some breakaway college football subdivision that's governed by a different entity outside of the university system, yeah, of course. But no, I think in the next 8 years, this game is going to be played, and it's going to be continued to be played. Maybe we're too close to it. It seems like every year it gets a little bit more toxic in some ways, but perhaps that's just the nature of America as well, as everyone's a little bit more polarized.
Everybody's just mad about everything.
Yeah. I don't think this game's going anywhere. I guess that's
what
I wanted. You're going to hear some talking to that. It's not going to go anywhere.
I still It's the weirdest deal. I was walking to the game on Saturday, and I saw a guy, and he was wearing an Iowa State shirt with a Iowa hat. And I always think to myself when I see these people, and this is where I think, like, is it toxic?
Yeah,
Or
I
is
don't
it
know. Or is it just social media? Yeah.
Because there's no way you're walking to an Auburn game
With an
and
Alabama
you see
hat.
some guy wearing an Alabama hat with his Auburn shirt. Like we think it's toxic, and there are some total idiots on social media who make everybody look bad. But then there's also the argument that shouldn't it be toxic? Like,
right.
Shouldn't we all just hate each other? That's what rivalries.
At least
Yeah, like
college football wise, like
yeah, absolutely. I'm not talking about like a civil war here,
physical
like,
violence.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Like it's interesting because I used to subscribe to, like, 15 years ago. Yeah, I understand why people root for both. I don't anymore. Like, I don't know how you could be an Iowa State fan is like rooting for the Hawks on the side. Like I right? Am I wrong? Maybe it's because Iowa State's just better. Maybe it's because so many Iowa fans have been personally, like, hateful to me over the years.
Yeah, it's a good.
It's my job.
Yeah,
I don't know. Most of them aren't, though. Like,
no, I know.
That's what I'm saying. Like, most of them are really nice to me. So, like, I don't know. Like,
well,
it's
and
just,
I always tell the story. Majority of my family are Iowa folks. So
yeah, me too.
both my grandparents on my mom's side were professors at Iowa. My mom went to Iowa. My mom played tennis at Iowa. I was born in the U of I hospitals. I have a twin brother that went to Iowa. Like, I have so many connections to Iowa, and my family gets along just great, by the way.
Yeah.
But yet I have the same feeling of I don't, I don't want them to win when they're playing somebody else.
Well,
It's a competitive thing. And from a pure athletic standpoint, it is better off from a recruitment, from a size of the fan base, from honestly a financial standpoint for Iowa State to beat Iowa regularly and have them lose to everybody else. Just honestly, like that, you are an advantage if the other side is not as good, and that's where a lot of this comes from.
Yeah, based on our state.
Yes, because there's only so much. The state is only so big enough, and I think, and what Iowa fans they'll probably argue with me, and I'm sure, we're listened to on their message boards because I've seen the thread. Which, thank you for listening and supporting our sponsors.
Racking up our numbers, baby.
The Iowa State fan base has grown immensely in the last 20 years. And I don't know if it's necessarily from a whole statewide perspective caught Iowa to be 50-50, but at least in central Iowa and western Iowa, I think central Iowa is maybe even past Iowa for that Des Moines, Ankeny, Ames corridor for number of Iowa State fans compared to Iowa fans. Now, yes, the eastern side of the state, it's different. But I do think they won't acknowledge it, but there's a bit of I won't call it threatened, but an understanding of Iowa State. It has grown quite a bit, and this has become more of a 50-50 state than 70-30 like it was in the 1990s. And it's because Iowa State has been better at football, and I thank Dan McCarney for that. But just the bigger number here, and Iowa State has more enrollment than Iowa does, and it has for the last 12 years. And so just from a logic standpoint, you're going to get more alumni, which means more fans in this state. And some of them will leave. But I think the Iowa State fan base, has it caught Iowa in the state? Probably not quite yet, but it's way closer than it was even 10 years ago.
Yeah, I don't understand the guy wearing the Hawk hat with an Iowa State jersey on. Like,
well, remember
if it's like silent. Like, I don't get it anymore.
But remember in Memphis with that guy?
Oh yeah, that guy.
The guy with the Hawk tattoo. Bastard. Yeah, I thought we were gonna lose him there for a little bit with yeah. But anyway, there's always, it's interesting. It makes it interesting, and that's why we care.
Shout out to our friends at the Iowa Clinic Men's Center for taking good care of us over the years. The Iowa Clinic in general. I'm going to got an ENT appointment. Ear, nose, and throat coming up with my friends at the Iowa Clinic. I like to do it when you got to do the urgent care, and you can just pop it right on there on your phone and see how long of a wait you got. It's just right there. Boom. iowaclinic.com, longtime supporters of what we do here on Cyclone Fanatic. Also, it's a great time of year to update your wardrobe. Go to Mr. B, my buddy Timmy Sitzman down there, and Clive. I actually really like the back room too. He owns that. I love going to the back room in Beaverdale. It's one of my favorite places to shop. Mr. B Clothing, a longtime staple of the great community of Des Moines. Let's do our Wiffles Hybrids Big 12 segment and pull up this weekend's Big 12 schedule. The one that I hate falling victim to the Dion thing. But like, I am interested every time they play.
I'm too.
And I hope Nebraska, I know I shouldn't, but I kind of hope Nebraska kicks their ass on Saturday night. Is that wrong? Does that make me a bad Big 12er?
What station is that on?
That's on the Cock. NBC Peacock.
It's going to be, honestly, that's the most ratings on that streaming station probably in a long time for that game. Dion still gets numbers, baby.
Dude, like from that North Dakota State game had like 5 million people.
It was crazy. It was crazy for a random Thursday night game. Yeah, hey, from that aspect, go Prime Go for the Big 12 because we need that boost from the TV viewership. This is going to get a lot of numbers. I still have a hard time rooting for Nebraska, C-Dub, and Matt Rule. We talked about this.
Yeah, no, I get it. I do like Matt Rule. I would rather have a beer with Dion. I think Matt Rule is a much better football coach.
Yeah. I think track record that's a fact.
Dion's team is kind of fun though. That offense, like
and they have like between Sanders and Hunter, it's two of the best 5 players in the country.
Hunter's one of my favorite individual college football players in the last decade.
The problem is he's under the prime orbit, which if that guy was on a different school, he would get a lot.
I'll tell you this.
He would be thought of differently in a good way.
If he keeps up and stays healthy and does what he does, I will vote for him for the Heisman because what he is doing is outstanding.
Interesting.
Like, that is the definition of that award.
Well, he'll be a top 5 pick.
He is unbelievable.
He is honestly, it's like a modern day Charles Woodson. The problem is he's
plays
under
for a 4-8 team.
Yeah, he's on a 4-8 team, and it's in Prime always gets the juice.
That, and if he played for Georgia, he probably wouldn't play 2 ways.
That's another reason.
There's just not many programs that are going to do that.
Yeah, I will. There are
a lot of guys out there that could do that.
Yes, for sure. The thing with Colorado, I'll give them this: they are entertaining, and isn't that kind of the point?
Yes. Are you not entertained?
Are you entertained?
Got this one circled. We got a little Friday night action. BYU at SMU. Go Cougs.
Go Cougs.
Arkansas at Oklahoma State. Boy, the Big 12 can't drop this one.
Nope.
Like this isn't like, it's an opportunity. No, you have to win this one if you're the Big 12.
Yep. 100%.
Same with Kansas State at Tulane.
Need
tricky spot. Don't drop this one, Kansas State. Our guy Avery didn't look great in week 1, but I'm going to cut him some slack.
Not great.
It's young.
It's the first week. Like, I'm not overreacting to much week 1. Other than the fact that
ACC Big 12, we've got Pittsburgh at Cincinnati.
Man, this game's not going to matter in the grand scheme of things, but for Cincinnati's program, it's a huge game. This is a game they need to win to feel good about themselves.
Big Tyson Bite guys here, so we're rooting for.
They are favored in this game, right?
By
2 or 3,
2.5, something like that. We got Baylor at Utah.
This is a non-conference
game. Yeah.
What time's that game?
That's 2:30. So early kick out there in.
It's at the same time, man. I'm gonna put that one on.
That's the Fox game. We're on CBS. That's a Fox game.
Because that's 2 future Iowa State opponents right there squaring off.
So 2 Big 12 games at that 2:30 block on the network TV. Notable.
There you go. What? Okay, let's do a little.
And then Oklahoma State, Arkansas is an ABC at 11.
Who's on ABC at 2:30? Do we know? Because I think C-Dubs, Iowa State, Iowa is going to get a huge number TV wise, which is good. This is a good thing.
Let me pull this up.
I mean, because if memory serves, Iowa State, Iowa has been one of the more watched non-conference games in recent memory because it's been on a big station. And
yeah, that's South Carolina, Kentucky.
Oh yeah. Iowa State, Iowa, Cyhawk. That's going to be the most watched 2:30 window. which is going to be pretty cool.
Let me give you your other options.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a no-brainer. You've got Baylor, Utah, Notre Dame, Northern Illinois.
There.
Couple Big Ten Network games. Bad game on FS1. Yeah, you're right. No doubt.
The nation is watching, everybody. What do they call this? What's the old name? It's not El Clasico. It's El Asico.
Oh yeah,
from a couple years ago.
Forgot about that.
How many CBS corn combine shots? Over under 4.
I am going to be on with Hassel on HQ Thursday.
Oh really?
They're bringing me in to preview the game.
What? Okay, give me.
We're all over the place. You're going to be on pregame. I'm on HQ.
They ran the segment on CBS Sports Network last night. The Rocco Beck.
Did you make it?
I made it.
Yeah.
I made the cut. Woo! I made the cut. I looked.
I haven't seen it yet. But...
it made me look presentable. Now, unfortunately for me, it was they did an interview with they cut from Rocco to me, and so that's like going
Tough
from
yeah.
like modern day. Who's the Glenn Powell to I mean some slappy, and that I'm the slappy.
Well, at least you made the cut.
I made the cut though, and my face made it too. It wasn't just my voice, so that's good.
Yeah, so we're like all those people who tell us we would never amount to anything.
Look at us, buddy.
Look who the network's coming to for pregame. Full independent boys.
That's right. Whatever.
Yeah,
it's tongue in cheek.
Yeah. We've got Kansas at Illinois. 6 o'clock start.
That's a fun
game.
First Illinois sellout in 8 years for that one.
Brett Bielema got it going on. Yeah. No, realistically though, these are the games the Big 12 can't drop. Like win these freaking games.
Another one of those games Kansas has to get it. Like you got to get it. If you want to be taken seriously, Kansas has to win that game.
Houston is at Oklahoma. They're going to get pummeled.
Yep.
It's all right. Our guy Willie, we trust.
Just in October, like let's limp into that game against.
This is a sneaky important weekend for the Big 12. I'm telling you. You've got Texas Tech at Washington State. The Mike Leach game.
Yep. This Reputation Saturday, everybody.
And then Mississippi State at Arizona State.
Another one.
We have Big 12 After Dark, so you're going to come over for that? Can you stay up till midnight and watch those games?
One way or another, Chris, on Saturday evening, I promise, bourbon will be consumed.
Pull out the old Cody Road?
It's either good or bad.
I could see if Iowa State loses, you're just done. You're like, tell me you'll come, and then it just won't happen.
It's very possible. So you know me better than
if Iowa State wins, you're over here at 6.
Yes, and we will do a cheers on live podcast. We will have a reaction cheers on the show, like live.
Nobody loves beating Iowa more than you.
Again, it's a family connection. It's not. I'm the guy. I told the story at a fundraiser the other day. I went in kindergarten because we got a first grader now, so it's his age at Sacred Heart Elementary in West Des Moines. We had 30 kids in our class. 27 picked Iowa to win. I was one of the losers who picked Iowa State, and Iowa won like 42-6. But darn it, I picked Iowa State every year. It was hard. It was hard being a Cyclone football fan in the 90s, but we made it. And I'm not going to lose it. I'm not losing that passion and that fight, everybody.
That's it. There's a lot of games featuring FCS teams that I don't think we need to really talk about. But this is like a sneaky important weekend for this conference.
Reputation Saturday. Yeah, this can only help.
If you win like 2 of these games,
yeah. If you let's say if it goes south, then you're at. And again, I don't want to get carried away, but at large wise, it would make it difficult. Let's have a week.
So
everybody.
You decided you're not going to Connecticut?
I'm not going.
Okay,
I'm not going. One of the football staff members listened to our podcast and said, "Blum, don't be a wimp for another word." And I said, "I'm sorry. I just."
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He wanted you there.
He wanted me on that wall, and I said, "I don't know. I don't know if I can do it." So. I sold my tickets to somebody made a very nice donation to the Weeble Collective. So this is a win-win.
Yeah, well, and I'm coddled because if I go, I'm just sitting in an air-conditioned press box, and I don't have to deal with like drunks all around me.
If I'm in row 35, I don't. Again, not that they would know I'm just some short slappy, but I'm just protecting my own well-being here.
Rob Gray and Connor Ferguson will be there for Cyclone Fanatic. We don't need 3 people, do we? I mean, I can do my job from here. Just
But
as
I
good,
think
if not better. Like, because now I get to sit and watch Oklahoma State. I get, give you better analysis. That's what I'm here for, people.
Yeah, you're not there for the post-game interview anyway, so I think you're in good shape.
Well, the problem is the post-game interviews have just become, the players are the value because Matt just doesn't talk, and I get it. Like, I understand what he's doing.
Well, you hire
Matt's
good people.
phenomenal in the offseason, by the way.
Yeah.
I have figured this out. I was watching his press conference yesterday, and it's just like he is playing the game. He knows once the season starts, there's no human that knows how to talk but not say anything better than Matt Campbell.
Like the whole injury thing, it's like, I get it. At least he admitted in the press conference that Caleb Bacon is in fact going to miss the game.
Yeah.
So there's something there.
Cool.
Should be a fun
All right.
week. We will celebrate or commiserate, and win or lose, there's still bourbon.
There's always some Cody Road.
That's right.
Thanks, our friends from Mechdyne, for sponsoring, as always, MECHDYNE.com. Signing off from the Wild Rose Casino Studios. Williams and Blum here on your Cy-Hawk Wednesday. Have a great rest of your week.